Okay.
Hello, my name is Mark Holmes. I'm the Senior Editorial Director of Via Satellite. I'm delighted to have with me Rachel Jewett, who's the Senior Managing Editor of Via Satellite. We're here today because we want to talk to you about this super cool new feature we have in Via Satellite. She's new, it's its second year. It's looking at the 10 top tech trends for 2025. It was written by a freelancer, Anne Wainscott Sargent, who's written for us. I think is in her second decade of writing for us. Is one of our Anne is one of our best writers. She did a phenomenal job with this article, so much so we wanted to talk about it a little bit more. She got some great interviews, including like General Whiting from the US Space Command giving his thoughts about some of these tech trends. So we're just going to talk a little bit about it now and why we want to sort of share it with you. So Rachel, I mean, obviously Starlink came up, AI came up. Out of some of those, what sort of stood out to you in terms of if there was one of these trends that you thought was particularly interesting, which one would you highlight?
Yeah, I think one of the things that everyone is wondering about, questioning about, looking to 2025 is the impact of the new administration in the US with Trump returning for a second term and what that's going to mean for the space and satellite industry, especially with how closely Elon Musk was involved in the campaign and is still involved with the Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE, and raised some interesting points in here. One of the things was about how it's taking a long time to get congressional budgets approved. And that is kind of hurting adoption of space capabilities, that by the time a budget is approved, that capability it's not the newest capability anymore. So how kind of political dysfunction is impacting contracting and not letting the best and brightest technologies into the hands of the US military. So I thought that was very interesting. And it got some great interviews in this one. Like you said, General Whiting, Peter Beck from Rocket Lab weighed in. You've got industry analysts like Chris Quilty, Audrey Schaefer from Slingshot, who has worked in policy. She talked about AI. So it's an awesome information download of kind of these are the most important things that some of the smartest people are looking at. So that was one that stood out to me. What about you?
Yeah, before I talk about the ones, I just want to echo that Anne got some phenomenal interviews for this. I mean, real diversity and some real thought leaders and influencers within the space sector talking about the trends. I think two that I'd like to mention, one of my favorite topics is AI, and then the lunar missions I thought was particularly interesting as well. I mean, we're starting to see with CyberSat more potential that CyberSat could go more in the direction of looking at sort of lunar and things going on there and security issues there. It's not directly related to the article, but it's kind of related. And also AI, which it has become, it feels like at some point during every conversation you have nowadays with a space executive, at some point AI will get mentioned. And I think because our industry is so futuristic, our industry is one of the most, I think, futuristic around. I think space is that, it's always had that romanticism about it in a way that you're going further than anybody has ever gone before. You're talking about something that most of us will never go to space, and you're talking about the impact that space could have on all of our future, on our children's, our grandchildren's future. So I think that they were two areas that I thought were particularly interesting, because it does sort of enter the realms a little bit of science fiction in a way when you talk about some of the things that AI might be able to do in space, and when you talk about some of the lunar missions. 10, 15 years ago, some of these concepts would have seemed fanciful, yet here we are in 2024, and we're talking about them as very real concepts are going in. And I think the great thing about this article and why we want to highlight it is Anne put together some real thought-provoking topics in every single one. I think every single one of the topics she highlighted we could talk about for 5 or 10 minutes. You know, we can't obviously, but you know, I think, and that's the great thing. And the reason why we want to talk about it is, you know, Via Satellite does a lot of these types of articles. You know, we do a lot of, you know, whether it's 10 hottest companies in satellite, 10 startups to launch, tech trends. You know, we want to do content that gets people talking. And you know, and I think this article is another great example. It's a great end of year topic. Everyone's got an opinion on a lot of this, and hopefully we can get all of you debating this and talking about this as we head into next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's just a great, it's like an information download of these are some of the key things to be watching in 2025. You were talking about tech, and that, you know, two of the ones on the list also stood out to me about lasercom, that it's not a new topic, but there were a lot of progress has been made, and in terms of lunar missions also, and not just satellites but activities in space. There's some discussion about lasers on, you know, commercial space stations and providing communications there. So I thought that was really interesting. And then also very low Earth orbit, which is kind of an area where we saw some contracts this year, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2025.
Yeah, I've got to admit that one was a bit of a surprise to me. That, I mean, I think some of them you could almost predict. I mean, I think you could predict there would be an AI one. You could probably predict there would be at least one Starlink, Starship related one. But actually, the VLEO was a little bit of a surprise to me. Maybe it shouldn't have been, but I think that was a very interesting one that Anne highlighted. Highlighted in the piece, and certainly it'll be an interesting conversation for the entire industry going forward.
Yeah, yeah. And so I hope that everyone takes the time to check out the article. It's a great list. I know a lot of you already have, because we've been watching the page views come in, and it's been one of the popular stories in our December edition. But thank you so much to Anne for working on this piece, and yeah, we're excited to bring you more content like this in 2025.
Absolutely. And if you feel there's anything we've missed, any tech trends that you would highlight, please feel free to get in touch with either Rachel or myself, either through email, through LinkedIn. We'd love to, you know, hear your thoughts on this as well. And we're just going to bring you more stories like this next year. We want to do stories that get the community involved and get everybody talking. So we appreciate your support. We wish you all a happy holidays and a new year. We thank you for all the support that you've given us, not just this year, but over the last few years. It's an honor to work with you and serve this community. And yeah, we're delighted to get any feedback from you.